Hey there, everybody. Welcome to the Dental Handoff. I'm Dr. Kelly Tanner, and today I have with me a hygienist who has a really cool story. Gina, thank you so much for being on with us today.
For sure. Thank you for having me, Kelly. Thank you very much.
Yeah, she was telling me some of her story in the green room, and I was like, "What? I can't wait for you to tell all the listeners this." So, Gina, I always start with the question: why dental hygiene for you? Did you always know that you wanted to be a hygienist?
That's a fun story, a little bit unique because no, I actually I always wanted to be an orthodontist. Funny, right? I know.
Yeah.
From as young as maybe 10, maybe fifth grade.
Hmm.
I started noticing smiles, and I just thought, gosh, it would be so cool to be able to help people with their smiles. And so, gosh, that must have been fifth grade, sixth grade. And my sister actually was 9 years older than me. So if I was about 10 or 11, she came home from college and one weekend, and she said, Mom and Dad, I got into dental school. I'm so excited to get into dental school. And I think at that time, I was so much younger that I didn't even know she was probably even applying. And she came in the kitchen, and I just walked in and I said, "What? You can't do that. I'm doing that." And my parents were like, "What are you talking about?" And so, so then from there, really, she was in dental school. I was able to kind of follow her journey, and then I just followed sort of in that path of, well, this is what I'm going to do. I wanted to do it even before she did. And so that really got me interested. And then I went to the University of Minnesota and just started the path of the generals and the prerequisites that I needed to apply to dental school and do all those things. And I worked in dental offices during college as an uncertified assistant, and I did some marketing for some dental offices. And then with a couple unsuccessful attempts at getting into school, into the dental program, I graduated from the University of Minnesota with a degree in biology and chemistry. And then I started working in a dental office as an office manager. And so after that, then I said, well, I need to stay in dentistry. I really wanted to be at the chair. And so then that's when I went back to dental hygiene school.
So did your sister end up being a dentist?
Yes, she did.
Okay. Is she in the area? Have you worked for her or with her?
I have never worked for my sister. I have no idea even what her dentistry looks like. I've never seen a crown prep. I've never seen anything.
So do you find that that's odd? Do you find that's a little bit odd?
It's bizarre. I mean, when I was in college, she, used to do I got whitening trays from her, right?
Yeah, important stuff.
But I've never worked for her. I don't even know what that dynamic would look like, but she's in a different state. So.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
That's just funny because, of course, my mind went right to, okay, so you guys could hang out together and see each other.
Right.
Or not.
Right.
The fact that you haven't even seen anything, that's hilarious.
Yeah. People ask me, well, is your sister a good dentist? And I'm like, she's a really good person. I have no idea. I'm sure. So, because you want to think so, right?
Yeah. What did you do after you finished hygiene school? What was your journey like?
So when I was in hygiene school, believe it or not, the market was incredibly saturated. There were very few jobs. And so I was able to, in January of the year that I graduated, so we took our boards in May, I started interviewing and literally cold calling or cold visiting dental offices and dropping my resume off without even having graduated hygiene school. And so that really helped me and catapulted me into a job before I even took my boards. Actually, I was hired by an office right away. And I actually had to call the Board of Dentistry in Minnesota for my license number because I started working before I had the physical piece of paper. So I was able to get a job immediately. And then I stayed there for a really long time. For 7 years, I was in 2 different offices. And then went for the last 11, I was in another practice as well. So
did you like being between 2 offices?
I didn't mind it. No, I really didn't mind it. I worked 4 days in one, and then I worked Fridays in another. And it was nice because I could, you got a taste of how offices did different things.
Oh
So
yeah.
yeah, that didn't bother me at all. It was good. I was working for I've been really fortunate. I've worked in some fantastic, I've worked in all of my offices have been fantastic. So
I
yeah.
liked when I graduated from hygiene school, I worked part of the week with a periodontist and part of the week with a general dentist. And it
Yeah.
was so cool to be able to do both
Yeah.
and see like the flow of how they went back to their general dentist, and I was able to advise, and it was such a cool dynamic. I think looking
Yeah.
back at it, I think it's much cooler than when I realized when I was going through it. I was because I was learning so much and being a
Yes.
perio hygienist of, oh my gosh, am I really at the base of that? It's okay because the periodontist is going to flap it, and I get to
Yes.
see what I missed when it was done.
Yes.
It was or during the procedure. It was cool.
And I worked for a short time, full time in a perio office when I was transitioning to my last job where I was at 11 years. And I loved the work, but what I really missed and I really craved was the connection with the patient on their whole health level. Because we had limitations, right? We couldn't say, John, we see a cavity on the mesial of 3, right? Because that really wasn't our role. And so I found it hard because I couldn't co-diagnose and treatment plan with my patient from start to finish. They were there for a service, and
Mm.
that was kind of it. So I much preferred general only because there was so much more interaction on a broader scale. I felt like whole health wise, but
Yeah, I think
yeah,
looking back, you're right in that, and I think that that fed my love for both being between both offices, where
yeah,
I could truly have a taste of both and learn the restorative side of it, how to talk to patients about certain procedures. Because in a perio office, you're talking about the oral systemic link. Well, back then it wasn't called that in the
yeah,
1900s, but it was right. You're more of like it was a service, and we did probably 2 or 3 different things. And while in
yeah,
general dentistry, we do that too, but it just was different. It had a different meaning to it
yep,
in some
yep,
ways.
yeah.
So then you went from clinical, and what are you doing now? Tell us what you're up to.
So right now I work full time for Orabio. We are an oral health care company that really specializes in products and technologies that focus on the oral systemic link, just like you were saying. So we want to make sure that we develop and bring to market products that hygienists and clinicians are going to go, we can't live without this product because we know that it's going to benefit our whole health of the patient. So I'm the clinical advisor for Orabio, and right now my main role is to implement and manage all aspects of the new products. So I'll oversee the product from the very beginning, all throughout the marketing process, the clinical writing, and then I get the benefit of being able to work directly with clinicians in their office for implementation.
That is so cool. That is
It's
so
crazy.
cool. All right, all right,
Yeah.
all right, all right, all right. And so you went from clinical into this role. How did you connect with this opportunity? That's always everyone's question of like, how did that
Yes.
even happen? How did that line up?
Um, it's actually a really cool story. So, but first of all, it took a ton of hard work. Everybody was faced with 2020. COVID, sucked us of life in a lot of areas of clinic, right? And I think in some point for a lot of us, we started to reevaluate our goals. Is a big goal for ourselves to have more time with our family. Maybe we want to have more career goals. Maybe that's something in between. And I was really feeling a pull um, to just get out of the everyday grind of clinic, to be honest with you. That's really what it was. I had a wonderful doctor. I had an amazing practice. I had a lot of clinical autonomy. So there wasn't anything that was saying to me, I need to get out because I don't love what I'm doing. But it was really, a pull to challenge myself, to motivate myself professionally, and to try to find something new. So I spent a lot of time. It was really a secondary job for me. I worked full time, and when my kids would go to bed at night, updating my resume, taking classes, connecting with people. I spent a lot of time on LinkedIn, figuring out where I might like to go. And so that's one piece of the story. I am not necessarily super spiritual. I don't have a lot of that connection in my life, but I do feel like sometimes the universe talks a little bit. So I lost my dad in January of 2021, and he was ill for several years. And during that time, you reflect on a lot of different things.
Yeah.
So I just thought to myself, I'm 40, 41, 40. I'm in my early 40s. I have so much life left. My dad was ill around 65. And I thought, my gosh, he had 5 really, really good years of retirement. So that's where some of my priorities shifted. But during that time, with all of my connections and making just connections with, the man down the street, I mean, just connecting with everyone. What are you doing? Tell me more about you. I would love to know about your job, things like that. I was reached out to by the CEO of our company. And it was just a simple message of, your recent post talking about the loss of your dad really connected me to you because I also lost my dad. And that is really how we were connected. Now, of course, there was more behind it. I'm sure he maybe saw something in my profile or what I, what I was doing outside that intrigued him. But it almost felt like, hey, thanks, Dad. It's just this very bizarre dichotomy of worlds. And so that's really what kind of got me speaking with John Barisi, who's our CEO. And then with him and my VP of sales over the next 6 months, we really formed a working relationship where we could connect on commonality in dentistry and clinic. And so that's how I was able to move into the role.
And you guys connected on LinkedIn, right?
Connected on LinkedIn. Yeah.
Yeah. It's such an underutilized tool. So many people don't realize the value of LinkedIn. I have gotten so many opportunities for years through LinkedIn.
Yes.
So if you don't know how to set up your LinkedIn bio, contact me, contact Gina.
Oh, yes.
Because that just setting it up, because people think that I don't know what people think. I've heard different things about what people think, but it's alive and well. And it is a honey hole of opportunity.
It is huge. LinkedIn is so big. And this is funny too. When I was hired, I went through all the hiring process. Of course, we had to do, things like the drug screen and all of these different things. And I got an email, or maybe it was even a text. I can't remember. And it was Mark, my boss. And he said, "Oh, whoops, I probably should have your resume." And we giggled because it's not all about the paper, right? It actually really, I think, to be honest, for most people, it's a formality. The paper is just a formality. It's about the connection you make and how you are able to present your skills online. Excuse me. And that's LinkedIn is where it's at for sure.
Yeah.
Because we're able to connect. You would never meet people otherwise.
That's correct.
It's like online dating for jobs.
It really is. And I think that we learned the power of that type of connection during COVID.
Yeah. Yes, for sure.
Right? Because that's what kept us connected was technology. And it allowed us to talk to our family members, to friends, because we couldn't connect. So I wanted to emphasize and put an exclamation point behind LinkedIn. If you guys aren't on LinkedIn, reach out, put in the comments that you need help. We'll help you. I know that I have a go-to guide I give to people who need help with that. So Gina, so you started with the company, sounds like you're in many roles right now. Which one's your favorite? Would you say that you have like one thing that if you had to choose, would you say that one, or maybe if it's too hard, maybe top 3?
Oh my gosh. That's a really good question. And I'm still figuring it out, to be honest. Google in the very beginning was my absolute best friend. I would talk with so many people and they would talk to me like I knew what they were talking about. And a lot of times I would just, I'm right on top of that, Rose. I don't know, that's going to date me, but if you remember the movie, Don't Tell Mom the babysitter's dead. And she's like, I'm going to
Yeah.
tell that news, right?
Yeah.
You just figure it out. And I'm a very figure it outable type of person. I will just figure it out. 18 months ago, if you asked me if I'd be speaking to the Delaware Dental Hygiene Association on Saturday, I would think you were absolutely crazy. That's been a really pleasant surprise for me. Naturally, I feel like I can connect with people. So speaking just has been sort of easy. I think I'm over the initial like crazy nerves of it all. And then I can just, you know what, we all put our pants on the same way. And if I say something wrong or do something, I can laugh and everybody thinks it's funny. Right. So that's been really fun. I'm able to connect with clinicians all over, you know, and hear about their lives, but also how's their clinic running? How do they do things? How can I help you? And then the management aspect is something that I'm learning, and I'm growing, and I have really good mentors to help me with, you know, this is great. Let's try this next time. Where do I struggle? That's a new one. I struggle with systems. I'm just a doer, and I just do. And so I have to remember that when I bring on team members, I have to have a system. Like, we're going to do A first, we're going to do Z last. And whereas I'm just like doing it all at once and just expecting that everybody will follow the suit. So yeah, I don't know if that answered the question, but
no, it did, because it's
yeah.
It's an important journey of leading anything, is to know where you shine, because where you feel like you enjoy it the best, I should say. Because it's like, if something stands out to you, that means it's probably expansive to you. And just like you said, something that you have some opportunity for growth is systems. I've had that too, where I've learned how to create systems. So like right now I have teams of folks, and I'm like, can you create a standard operating procedure of what you do?
Yes.
So the next person can go 1, 2, 3. And then I'll tell you, Gina, what I realized is that Loom is my friend. Screen recording all day long. If one of my contractors or employees has a question, I'll go right to it. I'll screen record, and it shows them 1, 2, 3. And then I'll make up an entire.
Awesome.
Yeah, anyway, I have a whole procedure for doing it, but it makes it easy for me, and it makes it easy for them, because they can see exactly step by step what I'm doing and what it looks like.
Yes. So Google, funny that you say SOP. Somebody said to me a year ago, SOP. And I was thinking, I don't have a clue what you just said. So
that gets me to a point, Gina, of like, you said you'll figure it out. There's some people that get scared in that fear. It doesn't sound like that. You just in your mind knew that no matter what they threw at you, not that they're throwing stuff at you, but you know what I mean?
Right.
But no matter what came your way, that you'd be like, I'll figure it out. So where do you think that comes from?
I have no idea. Maybe my parents, you know, if I think about how I raised my kids and how they raised me, by 10, I was getting myself up in the morning by myself, making myself breakfast and walking to the bus stop and just getting on the bus. And that was for sure fifth grade, right? 4th, 5th grade. And then I think about how I parent my kids, and like their backpacks are and they're 12 and 14. Their backpacks are in cute little rows. You know, their Chromebooks are charged. Their cell phones are charged. I've got water ready in the morning, and it's like boom, 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 boom. And I've got this system, and they're like, sweet, let's just do it. Like,
so Gina,
Mom will do it for us.
Are you a Virgo or are you a Capricorn?
I'm an Aquarius.
Shut up.
My whole house, except for my husband. My husband's a Virgo. And let me tell you, his systems have systems with children that have systems. I mean, he's like, and so we're polar opposite. And my kids are Aquarius. And I think to myself, am I setting them back because I just do, you know, like, and I don't know where I got that parenting, because my parents were wonderful, of course, but they just like enabled me to just do it and figure it out. So maybe it came from them. I don't. I don't
Yeah.
know.
And I think, it's hard to know. And I
Yeah.
realize that at certain, here we go on to parenting. This is why I love podcasting, because we can be talking about saving the world, and then we go to parenting, which is also saving the world
Yeah.
because we're nurturing and raising our children. But
Yeah.
what I realize is that I have to step back so they can step up. So like dishes in the sink, I will let it sit there. I take pictures. I send it to what we call the chicken chat, and it will go. And I'm like, whose is this? And then it'll be like, not mine, not mine. And so, because I have three, that whose it is. And then about within 10 minutes later, do, 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 do,
Oh,
do, 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 do,
that's
do. And
great.
I will let it sit there for 3 days, and I start taking stuff away. I'm like, you don't have time apparently to do what you need to do. Now it took a while for me to be that way, because I was very much like you, like, all right, which third option do you want me to cook for dinner? Right. Because I would cook 3 or 4 dinners for everyone
Uh-huh.
because, right. And
Yeah.
it's just it's such a wild ride, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah. My 14-year-old last night, he's starting driver's ed next week. And he says, Mom, can you get me grapes? And I was walking up the stairs, and I gave him the stink eye, and I was like, you're joking, right? I was like, no, you can get grapes. So it is. And I did that. I created that monster. So it is. And my husband's always like, you're enabling again. And I was like, I can't help it.
I just love them.
Yeah. But I did stink eye last night, and I'm like, no, I don't know how. I said, you absolutely, I mean, you can eat them from the package. He's like, well, don't I want to rinse them? I said, well, preferably yes, but I'm not getting you your grapes. Like, rinse them off. And yeah.
They can figure out
So
these smartphones way better than we can when they pick them up, and
yes.
they can. I know it's such a wild thing, but
Yes.
I often, when I'm coaching, and we, even people who I'm not coaching, just like in every day, we get into these situations where we face something, and it can really paralyze us for because we're like, I've never done that before. That's crazy. I don't know if I could ever
Mm-hmm.
do that. But it sounds
Mm-hmm.
like you're like, okay, whatever that is, I'm gonna figure it out.
Sometimes I cry. I
And
mean,
then
I've
sometimes I cry.
had those moments. But yeah, it's and I think too, it's if you surround yourself with the appropriate mentors, or you have that girlfriend that can talk you off a ledge, or like now with LinkedIn, with all the connections I've made. I mean, some of the connections I've made have become friends, right? We have cell
Yeah.
phones, we text, totally non-work related. And I think too, I have 2 really great mentors too with my company, um, I think you have to realize that you're going to make a mistake, and things aren't going to be perfect. And on all fronts, just because there's leadership in the company doesn't mean that they don't make mistakes either.
Right.
And
Right.
so we just have to all remember that in the end, we're working as a team for one common goal, and rely on each other for those questions. And I've never been one to be afraid to ask a question. Certainly there's been questions when I've started to ask, and I'm like, wait, can I Google that?
Yeah.
I mean, is this a question that I can't figure out on my own? Right.
Yeah.
And so I have to step back sometimes and ask myself that question. And 8 times out of 10, probably I'll figure the answer out on my own. But then there are times when it's like, no, I really need help. I need to be guided. And what would you do, and how would you handle it? And then I can put my own spin on it. So
Yeah. And that's a very good point, because I think those folks who ask the immediate question, the leadership team, and I think all of us appreciate a person who's done a little bit of, hey, I've checked this, and this. Can't seem to find what I need. Could you support me in this way? Instead of,
yeah,
what do I
yeah,
do? And
yeah.
sometimes there's that, like among your friends. Sometimes it's like, what are we doing right now? I can't even figure this out.
Right. Totally. Yes, for sure.
So looking back, how long have you been with the company?
About 18 months.
Okay, so looking back, when you said yes, I'll help you, what would you say to yourself now, then starting out? What advice would you give?
Um, don't be afraid to take the risk.
Mm,
Right? If you have something in your head that says maybe or what if, figure out the what if, right? Because we can always go back. We can always go back, but we can't move forward if we don't take the steps forward.
Do you think it was in
Yeah.
your head, Gina? Or do you think it was intuition? Do you think it was here?
What was?
Like when you said whatever is in your head to take action on, that's what you were just saying.
I
Like, do
think
you
it's a
think it?
combination of
Mhm.
both. But I think I think the problem is our head can cause us to not do things because we
Yeah,
overanalyze and we get too comfortable. And, um, and I think what's the worst that can happen? A risk doesn't work out. I mean, I wouldn't say be ridiculous and like mortgage a house and sell your cars to do something. I mean, right? There's limitations,
yeah,
but at the same time, um, if you are feeling a burning desire to do something different and you can find a means to do it, don't let being pragmatic set you back,
yeah.
right? Overthinking, oops, I made a mistake, I'll fix it. I mean, I don't know. I'm kind of one of those. I'm more of an adventurous soul, I think too.
Yeah,
I
it's because truly anything that we've done and we've not done perfectly, we've learned from it. Yeah.
mhm,
And so what is really the worst that can happen? Like to
mhm,
your point, you can always go back to what you were doing. So for
mhm.
us, we can always go back to hygiene if we want to,
Yes.
if we wanted to, right? And
Yes,
so
and
it's kind of that in
totally,
the
and
back of your head.
that did make it easier. My youngest is, really into basketball, right, and we're always watching. I mean, he's training all the time, and just basketball is kind of our life, and, one of his trainers, said once, "You have to get uncomfortable to get comfortable."
Yep.
And until you're uncomfortable with something, if speaking's your gig or you want to manage a team or you want to start writing, you have to be uncomfortable first before you get comfortable. It's just not going to come easy, right? And so I think that's something that, my kids know too. Like, you need to put in the work to get uncomfortable to get comfortable. So
Yeah.
I just think that's a really good.
Yeah. And that comes with
Yeah.
conversations. It comes with work. It comes with new experiences, places you
Yes.
move, jobs you take, the
Yes.
whole thing. And like
Yes.
trying something new for the first time, technology, people are going to be watching me. I don't know what I'm doing. My patients are going to be like, why are you taking so long? And they don't know the difference.
Yes.
They don't know the
Yes.
difference.
For sure.
Well, I appreciate you sharing your journey. I always love hearing the perspective. I know our audience does too. Are there any final words you'd like to offer for the audience? Words of advice?
Oh my gosh. Philosopher is not one of my many strengths. Um,
That's okay. That's okay.
um, um, I think just what we talked about, though. I mean, just don't be afraid to branch out of your comfort zone. If there's something that's already telling you that you might want to do something else, just explore it. And it'll take time. It took me 2.5 years to really find my place out of the clinic. So
Yeah,
it's a journey for sure.
it totally is a journey.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for sharing that, Gina. And you
Yes,
guys,
you're welcome.
if you guys want to get in touch with Gina, her information or contact information, or if you have questions about her products at Perivance, right? If you have
Orabio. Yep. Perry Vance is the brand. Yep.
okay, so Orabio, what is that website? Do you know it offhand?
Yes. Orabio.com.
Okay. So go there. You can check out products. And Gina, thank you for all the work that you're
Of
doing.
course. Yes. Thank you for having me. This was great.
Yes. To our listeners, thank you for what you're doing too every day, touching lives. And if you don't mind, I always ask, go over to Apple Podcasts, give the Dental Handoff a 5-star rating, please. Yay. And then go on over to YouTube, like, subscribe, and share with people that you love. Until next time, my friends. And thank you, Gina. We will see you soon.
Thank you so much.